Hey everybody. I just finished re-updating my template, so I thought I had made a great one a couple weeks ago, and then I noticed that there were a couple issues with it. Nothing like big, just like I noticed that there were just like a couple sends I didn't want in there, a couple modulations I didn't necessarily want, and so I figured I would modify it. But then after several modifications and improvements, I ended up with a template that I really did not like. So this morning I went back to the original one, and I went ahead and decided I would kind of try to modify all the stuff that I wanted to change without affecting like how inspirational I find the template. Lately, I've been really influenced by sludge metal and grindcore. So a lot of what I'm interested in doing here is channeling, I guess, what you would consider like the grindcore mentality of being like, here's a sample, here's a bunch of in-your-face, with very brief pause type of riffs and patterns, and then, here's the end. So what I've got here in my template is, first of all, I have a Drumbrute sampled kit. I had always really liked being like, here's kicks, here's snare, here's hi-hat and cymbals on tracks 1, 2, and 3. But now I've really gotten into putting the whole kit on 2 different ones. I think it works better with how the XY's arranger works, and I think it works better with how the filter, key tracking, and all that stuff works to do some weirder stuff with sound design and all that. I've got a stereo, or mostly stereo, kit of acoustic hits that I sampled. And these are just, I kind of just cranked the gain up on most of these and maxed it out so that it really cuts through. But I have the envelope really short. What I do have attached to the envelope, at least to this 4th parameter here, the release, I do have velocity attached to that. So let's make this even, so this isn't sensitive to velocity at all. So no matter what, this snare hit is going to have about the same sort of aggressive attack, right? It's just it's very short. And so basically velocity then is attached to how long the tail is, how much of the sample it plays. And so that's kind of helpful because I've got these acoustic samples and you can hear the rest of the kit resonating a lot of the time. And so I don't always want that resonance happening, but sometimes I do, and it's cool to have it like as an effect. And doing it this way also gives me the ability to use step components in a really interesting way. Because these are going to be attached to velocity, and I also have pitch bend affecting these. But let's start with velocity. So let's just put velocity as random on all of those, on the 1st, 2nd, and 4th ones. So I hear it just randomly cutting off. And so then from here, I could just add in a random pitch bend to all of those and make it so that, so pitch bend here already is going to affect the sound of it a bit. So what I'm getting at here is just that this template sort of sets me up for a lot of things that I already like to mess with. And so if I wanted to play all of these acoustic samples, yes, I'll always have to go to the envelope and turn it, turn this encoder all the way and stuff. But this is sort of me trying to lean into a specific style. And I think that that's kind of what templates are, for. All right, so we got this, like I said, Drumbrute template here. Original stereo acoustic drums here. And then this 3rd one is just a blank. And this is something that I actually just want to take a second to, I guess I'm just going to nerd out about my template here because I put a lot of thought into it. This is an initialized preset. I not came up with these, but I saved some presets that have no saved samples, regular envelope, and a disabled LFO, disabled filter, no modulation, no high-pass filter, nothing kind of weird. And the reason for that is because if you choose just a random drum kit, you're going to end up with a lot of things maybe enabled that you don't want to, and that could change the pitch, that could change a lot of different stuff. So I like to have just a completely blank option there. Right here, at least for now, I have a blank sampler engine that has the same sort of thing, where there's nothing applied on the settings page, no modulations, no sends, no filter or LFO enabled. And right now, no bend, even though I'm getting more into having things being able to be bent. On the fifth track, I've got basically a bass patch. This could be any number of things. Right now, I think it's not sending to the lo-fi. So this has no effect sends. The LFO is not enabled, the filter's not enabled, and there's no release on it. That's something I've been kind of messing with. But similarly, if I wanted to, I could make it so that the velocity triggers a bit of that release. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something. Oh wait, is it? There we go. That makes sense. I forgot that it's opposite, like, polarity, I guess. But these are things that, like, as I'm messing around, I'll be making calls, and this makes it really hard to make a template, because I'll be distracted trying to create something and making sure that it, like, fits that need. I don't know, just messing around. Cool, and then if I send that to the lo-fi, that's the bass patch I have right now, but it could be any bass patch. I have one called Big Huge Bass. This one sounds cool when sent to there. That also brings me to the other important thing about the template, which is it's almost like the aux tracks. I mean, the aux tracks are very important for the template, it turns out. The default stuff on the tape track makes a difference. The default players that you have saved for everything also make a difference. But then the default effects you have make a big difference. So this one's kind of a gnarly one to have, like, enabled. But I like it. It doesn't send at all to the reverb. And that's because right now I'm really enjoying trying to make everything stand out in its own way. So, like, the drums I like to have pretty dry, but then maybe I'll have, like, the maybe I'll have these, you know, sending to the lo-fi really intensely. And that'll actually make it so that the bass sounds the first one, as I was saying, is just lo-fi. The second one is reverb. I generally keep the tone a little higher, at least to start with, so I can hear it. And the reason for that is I just want to know when the reverb's modifying something. On the topic of FX, one of my big things is I do wish that they would make it so it was persistent whether you're in instrument or aux mode, because I spend a lot of time double pressing this to get over to here. And part of that's because a big part of my workflow now is swapping out FX1 or FX2, or the send between FX1 and FX2, and making different patterns for that. I get a lot of mileage out of that. I've started using that for transitions way more than I've been using, like, fills and stuff like that. For my purposes, 5, I wanted a big, huge bass. 6, I wanted a wonky, noisy instrument. And so what I have is I've got also a wavetable, but this one has an LFO on it that changes the actual table. And what I've got is the pitch bend is going to make it set the speed, is going to control the speed of this, and the velocity is the pitch bend is going to control the amount, and the velocity controls the speed. So I've got this weird instrument. I want something that sounds kind of atonal in a way. Or at least just sort of noisy, because I'm really trying to make some industrial type stuff here, or just distorted, dissonant stuff. So, got bass here, got this annoying lead that we could always just replace with something else. And part of this is also, I don't want to have samples loaded by default too often. I've made one big exception, and I don't know how long I'll keep it as a full multi-sampled instrument, but I sampled a very old mandolin that was owned by my great-grandfather? I think it was. And that's one of the first things I sampled onto it. Onto the XY. Oh, I guess that's pretty quiet by default, that's fine. And I also have when you're making your template project, it's absolutely worth changing out the players for everything, even if they're off by default. For example, if you have the arpeggiator on by default for this, it will have the note duration, the hold duration, be as small as possible. So that is adjusted by shift in this first encoder. So here's what it would sound like by default, or it'd be pretty short. Not as clear on that as it might be somewhere on some other instruments, but yeah, by default it will shorten them dramatically. And so part of my goal, as you can see it succeeded, was to make it so that basically everything I turned to on here was inspiring for that instrument or that track. And I haven't fully done that yet. I think that's always going to be like a work in progress, but I wanted it to be so for every track when I turned on the player, it was something sort of relevant to that track. I guess I didn't do, oh, I loaded up I guess I didn't do that for the bass to begin with, actually. But ideally, this might be like either Maestro or something else like that. Could be Hold, I don't know. I've also adjusted it so that the pitch bend for each track is roughly appropriate. I think I already showed that, though. Track 7. Oh, we just did that. Thank goodness. Okay. Other things that you might want to consider for your template are what gets sent to the tape and what doesn't. So right now, by default, I have that noisy instrument and the mandolin being sent to the tape track. I already have the LFO to my favorite thing, which is going to be the third parameter, how long it is. Okay, so I'm not going to keep with that. But my point is just, I think I've done pretty well with making it so that each track has a couple things that I find inspiring, whether it's the filter, the LFO I have on the track, or like the player, there's something. And then right now I just have this sort of undefined MIDI track. Sometimes I'll replace this with an instrument, sometimes I'll actually use it as a MIDI track. I'm not totally sure what I'll end up using that one for in the long run. A couple other things, I don't have any of the EQ or the Saturator enabled at all, and that's just because I want to be able to use the different filters here intentionally and not have to worry about whether something's getting exaggerated or clipped out as a result of this. I do, however, have this tuned up pretty high in terms of the percussion gain and the melodic gain and then the master gain. Those are all pretty high. Don't have any compression on yet. So, do I want to make something now? I don't know.